What's going on, Consciouztv? Your favorite breakdown commentator, CTV. Welcome to another riveting episode of the Consciouztv platform, and happy Monday. You already know what we're here to get into. Before we do so, go ahead and run those likes all the way up. We need all of the likes, like the video as you guys are coming in. Thumbing up the video not only helps with YouTube's algorithm, but more importantly, it triggers up YouTube's notification system. So when you are thumbing up the video, you are literally knocking on the digital door of another conscious crew member and telling them to get their black asses into the sanctuary. YouTube system is all janked up and messed up right now. It's literally so fucking annoying. But it is what it is. We're going to get our click and our view anyway. I had to get up in here to give a little 1-2 on this. Also, if you guys want to donate to the platform, you guys can certainly hit the Cash App at $Consciouztv on Cash App and or paypal.me/ConsciouzTV. Conscious spelled with a Z on the end, just how it is here on the platform. All handles, emails, Patreon, Instagram, etc. are in the description box below. And last but not least, please share the stream out to whatever it is you have digital community, whether that be your YouTube community wall, your Snapchat, your MySpace, the dark side of Twitter, Tumblr, or your personal OF. I don't really give a damn where you, in fact, lay the link. Just let them whores know that we're loud, we're live, and we are certainly in color. And with no further ado, let's go ahead and push on through.
I know a place where you can recharge your soul.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
And in the midst of brokenness, he gon' see your asshole.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
You gon' heal, you gon' laugh and catch a little shade.
Ooh, girl.
Y'all know he be slaying, y'all better stop playing. Come hear what he's saying.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Let me speak to the country crew in the building. What's going on, Brooke? Hey, Rumors and Tea. What's going on, Teresa? Hey, Ian Gardner. What's going on, Sherry? What's going on, Linnell? Hey, Remnants of Uda. Hey, Sherry. Hey, y'all. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to kind of let the content really speak for itself. Before we get into it, you guys know we have a $400 Pacer bill. So if you want to donate to the Pacer Fund, you certainly can. You guys know that we self-fund here. Once again, the Cash App, PayPal, etc. handles are all in the description box below, girl. They done ran us up a $399 Pacer bill because y'all know we be pulling in all of the legal documents in the TD Jakes lawsuit against Dwayne Youngblood, the Megan Thee Stallion litigation, all of the Diddy stuff, the Desiree Perez litigation, girl. We done ran up a $400 Pacer bill. I didn't even know you could run up that much coin on Pacer, girl. Okay, I've had a Pacer account for years. I'm just getting billed for Pacer like this year. I got a Pacer bill like 2 months ago for I think $100. I paid that, so I'm like, I'm confused on how the hell y'all just charged me $100 2 months ago. So how the hell did we jump up to $500? I ain't been doing nothing different on Pacer that I ain't been doing the past 3-4 freaking years. But moving along, you guys are welcome to do that, girl. Because until we get that paid up, honey, we will not be up in Miss Pacer, child. Shout out to my baby mother Teresa for the old dancing piece of child support chair for the Pacer Fund. Thank you, baby mother. Thank you so much. And once again, you guys, all donation information is in the description box below. So you guys know there's a lot going on politically. I have not done a political-based show in a long time. I am interested in bringing a political segment to the Consciouztv platform. So if you yourself are well-versed in politics and you're able to be kind of more journalistic in your approach, more so than opinionated about the news, then definitely email me at consciouztv@gmail.com. I would love for you to be a corresponder. I would love to put together maybe like a small political panel that comes on once a week or twice a week to get into all of the political stuff that's going on from every side, so that, you know, we could just also be bringing attention and having those discussions, etc., here on the platform. Or if you know a content creator, and don't give me some large content creator's name because large content creators have things to do, but if you know a smaller content creator who's well versed and great in the political realm, etc., definitely shoot me an email or a DM, give me their information, etc., or tell them to hit me up in my DMs on Instagram, as well as or at consciouztv@gmail.com, because I'm so empathic that I'm not able to really have this discussion as frequent as I want to, because it just takes too much out of me, because the political landscape, as we can see, is so hellish and absolutely despicable at this point. There's been political violence going on since Trump has been running. You guys know there's been multiple assassination attempts on Trump this year and last year, and now there have been even more fatal occurrences that are politically driven, as we're going to get into here in this discussion. Then you guys know Project 2025 is rolling out, and there's bombs over Baghdad, and it's just so much going on that I just have to maintain my mental health. So as much as I want to jump into these discussions, as much as I want to be more frequent in this particular topic on the platform, I'm just, it doesn't do good with my mental health, considering that we have to live through this stuff, and then I gotta go talk about it. I gotta go, look at what's going on. It just brings me too close up to it. So, I need to be able to pick and choose my proximity to the things going on politically right now for the sake of, my personal soul salvation, child. All right. So let's go ahead and move forward. So we got to talk about the No Kings Parade that took place over the weekend. Shout out to the No Kings Parade, girl. There was a huge turnout in Philly. Me and one of my close compadres were talking about the Philly turnout this morning. He lives in Philly, and he was telling me, girl, that Philly showed the fuck out. They had one of the largest protests against Trump in Philly. Apparently, Trump does not like Philly. He cannot stand Philadelphia, girl, etc. But they had, I think, 30,000 protesters come out. They had Philadelphia barricaded and blocked the hell off. It was an entire movie, girl. And they're even saying that the No Kings Parade literally was the largest protest in U.S. history. Okay. Let me bring up some deets here for you guys. Once again, you guys, all donation banners are in. All donation banners, girl. All donation information is in the description box below. Oh, matter of fact, hold on. Let me see something. Where's this from? Okay, this is from a WNC, girl, as you guys can see here on the screen. One political analyst in the mountain said that the nationwide No Kings protest this past weekend was one of the largest in American history all across the United States. Many participated in a series of protests to rally against President Trump and his administration's policies. Some outlets estimate that millions of attendees took part in the nationwide protest. On the same day, Trump held a military parade for the 250th anniversary of the United States, which also conveniently and ironically took place on his 79th birthday. WCU political science professor Chris Cooper explained that people were protesting Trump's approach to the presidency. He added that the argument is that many believe Trump is trying to act more as a king or aka dictator than an actual president who's supposed to be all for our beautiful democracy. Okay, this is not a monarch. Now, what's interesting is that during Trump's birthday, lack of extravaganza, in conjunction with the military anniversary celebration, there were actually vets who were actually pretty transparent and vocal about how they felt about Trump pretty much hijacking, what is supposed to be a tribute and a memorial for our U.S. heroes who get out here and do all the things for the country that none of us are going to do, such as lay their life down on the line for our rights and for our protection and do what's alleged in the best interest of the United States. They were very adamant about how they do not appreciate Trump's lack of, what is the word that I'm looking for? Diplomacy. Okay. A lot of the way that Trump is running his admins and this country is more like a regime. People actually want to see more of a conversation and a collaboration between liberals and conservatives, between the right and the left, etc. People's lives and healthcare and well-being is on the line. So the sentiments around Trump have completely and utterly tanked. There's even, MAGA fatigue at this point, okay? So, there are people who are within MAGA who are completely delusional, okay? They're completely gone. They're reprobates. You can't save them, girl, okay? And then there are people who are part of MAGA who have good sense. They believe in what they think is Trump's utopian vision for America, but as the facts roll out, their good sense won't allow them to continue to move forward blindly without openly criticizing their leader. So, shout out to the integral MAGA supporters, or those who maybe not even MAGA, but just did not want Kamala in office. They did not want Dems running the country for the next 4 years for whatever reason, etc. They took their chances on Trump, and Trump is operating in ways that is against their worldview and is against their personal values. And so I'm all for one zone base holding their own accountable. That is a beautiful sentiment. I also can see that it's going to be a landslide victory for Dems to get their asses back into office in 3.5 years, girl, because Trump has made a complete and utter mess of everything, from the tariffs to all this shit going on with the war in Gaza, and now all this shit going on with Iran, and it's just one thing after the other. All this attack on Harvard University and DEI and taxes and blah, 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 girl. The real question is, what the hell ain't going on at this damn point? All right. So one of the largest U.S. protests in history on Trump's birthday against the king without a crown himself, girl. And based upon the footage and the still shots of Trump at this tribute, girl, he was definitely feeling the burn and the lack thereof, and you could see the sheer disappointment and rage on his face, girl. And I love that for him, girl. So shout out to the country for standing on business right now. There's a lot of business being stood on. Also, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole too far, but, considering how many people are rallying against Trump and how much of the country is standing in opposition to the tonality of the repubs and, just the resistance that's now being perpetuated from large chunks and sectors of our country against this presidency, it is bringing into question, how in the hell did he even become president then? Because there's only two working conclusions on the table. Either this president became president because he just played off of the needs of the American people by appealing to price drops in gas and food and affordability and etc. and an attack on, left-wing ideas and pro-abortion and etc. And he was going to squash the war overseas. And, he was saying all the things, and people just found themselves desperate enough to believe that Trump was going to be integral enough to, walk that out, despite the fact that the mother is an entire convicted felon who was also sued and found liable of being sexually inappropriate with another individual. But somehow they thought that this person, nonetheless, was going to be integral enough to mean business. Okay, he was going to close up the borders and make America safe again, while he's also actively releasing criminals back into the American streets that he claimed he wants to be safe for children and women and the elderly, such as releasing and pardoning all of these insurrectionists and all these fraudsters and anybody that was convicted and tried under the Biden administration. So, I can definitely understand why the people are kind of now waking up from their slumber, and they're lucid, and they're realizing that, oh my God, Trump is completely full of shit, and we did vote for him out of complete and utter desperation. And now we have to be the first ones to, of course, hoot and holler and to lead the torch against his ass, okay? And then, if that's not the case, all this protest, all of this anti-Trumpness obviously is the result of a rigged election. Okay? So either the victory on Trump's end was sincere, but it was based upon him perpetuating propaganda and appealing to the desperation of Americans for their vote, only for them to be hoodwinked and bamboozled, or this victory was in fact rigged like a motherfucker. I mean, after all, they continue to give Elon Musk credit, right, for helping Trump with the election. But what the fuck does that mean? We know that he was one of his highest donors, and we also have heard them make reference to the fact that Elon Musk knew ahead of time, that Donald Trump was going to win, etc. So, there surely is enough circumstantial evidence to support the thought that there's possible some polluting and corruption there. All right, it is a total and utter mess, child. So nonetheless, I want the country to continue to keep the same energy. You guys know that I am neither left nor right. I am just somebody who wants what's best for the population. I believe that our governments are supposed to be products and made in the likeness of the people, and their priority are supposed to be the people, and stripping away healthcare and using the army to showboat while you actively strip military personnel and those who have laid their lives down on the line of their resources, of funding, of housing. It is an entire mess. And I hope that, come midterms, we are showing out. We need to be getting ready, you guys, for midterm elections. This is going to be our only other shot to create some type of a buffer within this alleged regime, and that we certainly get what we now know is just a power-hungry, unreasonable political cults, also now known as the right wing, who are really at this point just, in fact, MAGA. I think that the conservatives definitely missed the mark. They got utterly carried away, and I think that they've done a major disservice to the brand for the right, girl, because Americans are probably going to show up in record-breaking fucking numbers, come the 3.5-year presidential election. The monopoly piece is would definitely be shifted around. Okay, so largest protest in U.S. history against the king with no motherfucking crown. All right, now let's move into some of the unfortunate events of this weekend, which ended up with four Democratic politicians who have been assassinated and or injured. Girl, there has been a fatal assassination of a Democratic political couple out of Minnesota who unfortunately lost their lives to assassin Vance Boelter, or hold on, let me see how to pronounce this damn man's name, child. As if he even needs his name properly pronounced. Hold on, and shout out to everybody in the building. I am not looking at the chat right now, you guys, in order to maintain continuity, but shout out to everybody in the building. I will read you guys' comments in the end of my stream. Yeah, Vance Boelter, I want to say, who's being held right now on a $5 million bail inside a city hall in downtown Minneapolis as he awaits his first court appearance, you guys, really on today. So there should be some updates on, what's going to happen there. Federal charges filed Monday laid out the shocking scope of Vance Boelter's alleged plans to assassinate state lawmakers before he fled the Twin Cities, evading law enforcement for 43 hours before his arrest in a field near his rural home. The 47-year-old assassin of Green Isles, Minnesota, has been charged with 6 federal crimes, including stalking and murder for the unaliving of Rep. Melissa Hoffman and her husband Mark, and the ooting of Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette. Acting U.S. Attorney for Minnesota Joe Thompson said those charges carry the potential for a death sentence, you guys. So they might be putting Vance motherfucking ass on death row. Quote, it's no exaggeration to say that his crimes are the stuff of nightmares, Thompson said. The 20-page federal complaint against Vance provided the most detailed yet about what happened Saturday morning through Sunday night, including that Vance went to the homes of 4 Minnesota lawmakers. He also encouraged law enforcement in 2 cities. He also encountered law enforcement in 2 cities before fleeing Brooklyn Park and setting off the largest manhunt in state history. Quote, this was a political assassination, Thompson said, quote, which is not a word we use very often here in the United States, let alone here in Minnesota. It's a chilling attack on our democracy, on our way of life. It's only the most recent example of political extremism in this country, and I hope it's a wake-up call for everyone that people can disagree without being evil. One of the previously unknown lawmakers targeted Senator Ann Rest DFL New Hope said in a statement Monday that she was informed that Vance parked near her home early Saturday. Vance is now federally charged with 2 counts of stalking Rep. Hoffman and Senator Hoffman using interstate facilities, 2 counts of murder for Melissa and Mark Hoffman, and 2 counts of using a firearm to oot the Ortmans and Hoffmans. On top of the federal charges, Hennepin County Attorney Mary said she intends to pursue first-degree state murder charges against Vance in district court. The federal complaint says that Vance used extensive planning to surveil his potential victims dressed as a police officer and drove a police-style SUV to the homes of Hoffman and Hoffman, Rest, and a 4th lawmaker from Maple Grove, who was not named, with the intent to inflict fear, injure, and unalive members of the Minnesota state legislature and their families. It also shows that in the wake of the unalivings, Vance texted his family, quote, Dad went to war last night. I don't want to say more because I don't want to implicate anybody. Shortly after that, his wife received a text message that read, quote, words are not going to explain how sorry I am for this situation. At a news conference Monday, we're going to get into that news conference. But before we get there, you guys, I want to dispel some of the misinformation and slander coming out of the right-wing extremist projects, okay? That Vance was a Democrat gone rogue, okay? As you guys can see here, extreme right-wingers made statements like, did Tim Walz activate an assassin against a political rival who voted against him, plan to give illegal immigrants free health care? Okay, Charlie Kirk tweeted, Tim Walz has reportedly backed out, but he was slated to headline the Twin Cities No Kings protest today. Total shocker that smearing a duly elected president who won an overwhelming electoral mandate as a fascist or a king leads to violent political radicalization. All right, Elon Musk as hell also tweeted, the far left is murderously violent. Data consistently shows far-right groups commit more domestic terrorism in the U.S. than the far-left groups, both in frequency and lethality, a 2021 census report found. All right, and yet, just like in the attempted assassination of Donald Trump over 2024's presidential campaign run, that particular assassin, Mr. Thomas Matthew Crooks, who you guys may remember, was in fact what, you guys? A whole entire goddamn Republican, okay? And guess what? Mr. Vance is no other than a damn what? Oh, you guessed it, you people. You all guessed it. He is, in fact,
I was a Trump supporter. Voted for Trump.
What?
Trump. I was a Trump supporter. Voted for Trump.
What?
I was a Trump supporter. Voted for Trump. I was a Trump supporter. Voted for Trump.
You don't say.
I was a Trump supporter. Voted for Trump.
Really?
I was a Trump supporter. Voted for Trump.
One more time.
I was a Trump supporter. Voted for Trump.
For the people in the back.
I was a Trump supporter. Voted for Trump.
And now there's nobody tweeting. This is the long-term friend, David Carlson, okay, of assassin Vance, okay, has known Vance since the 4th grade and has been doing interviews like galore, providing intimate details of Vance, his mentality, personality, and even read the last text messages that Vance sent to him the night prior of his apprehending. Okay, so yeah, you know, all of a sudden now there's nothing trending. All of a sudden now, baby, you know, the right don't know how to work those fingers. All of a sudden now, baby, there's no story to tell. There's no narrative to push as the true tea comes out. That Vance is, of course, one of their own, just like Thomas Matthew Crooks is. My God, today. Now, speaking of the best friend, let's get into the best friend's interview with CBS. Okay. They're going to get into some things, so let's check out David Carson. And once again, you guys, make sure that you guys thumbs up the video.
Is under arrest. He's due in court this afternoon. This picture shows the moment that Vance Belter's arrest. In a post on Facebook, the local sheriff's office called him the face of evil. And a newly unsealed arrest warrant revealed police found at least 3 AK-47 assault rifles, a 9mm handgun, plus a list of names and addresses of other public officials in the suspect's vehicle. Now, Boelter's roommate is telling CBS News the suspect is a Christian who went to church every Sunday. That roommate also said Boelter listens to the conspiracy theory platform InfoWars and, quote, he liked Trump.
Wow. Okay, so Vance was a bit of a CT, a conspiracy theorist, okay? He indulged in platforms like InfoWars, which you guys know is led and ran by the king of CT himself, who owes billions of dollars to multiple families for conspiracies he spread about, you know, a mass ooting years ago. So very interesting how a lot of these mass ooters and or assassins, they indulge kind of in the dark web. They clearly lack a lot of critical thinking. They're more fantasy prone and obviously driven by their own prejudice and or biases and definitely emotion. So of course facts don't actually matter to these type of folk. Now look, I'm all for a good CT, okay? But the way I intelligently employ CT is when either the facts support or the circumstantial facts and evidence support a well-drafted up CT, and or when we're lacking facts and circumstantial evidence, okay? Then we try our best to intelligently put things together ourselves. But you never go to conspiracy over the facts. You always choose the facts and the empirical data first, okay? And you know, you have enough integrity to leave any CT alone that doesn't align with the facts, because that's just really integral as hell. I mean, where is our journalistic integrity after all, honey, when facts and the truth don't matter? The only thing that matters is your prejudice and your bias.
And while the investigation is ongoing, friends, loved ones, and constituents are all mourning the loss of State Representative Melissa Hoffman and her husband, Mark. U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar shared her thoughts on Hoffman with CBS News Minnesota.
Somehow balancing two little kids, being a Girl Scout leader, being a Sunday school teacher, her dogs, and then maybe all that juggling made her such a powerful speaker.
CBS News correspondent Lilia Luciano joins us now from Minneapolis with more on all of this. Lilia, I know that you've been reporting there on how the capture unfolded for a while now. How are people reacting to the violence and the arrest?
Well, Errol, there were these mixed feelings of shock, horror, fear, because the suspect was at large, and grief. Now there is a lot of grief for these beloved lawmakers, for the beloved lawmaker who passed, and of course relief that this man was caught within 43 hours of this, what they're calling authorities, this man was caught within 43 hours of this, what they're calling authorities, the largest manhunt in the state's history. There is also surprise that the suspect was caught unharmed, that neither police nor the suspect were hurt. While police encircled him for about an hour and a half, they said that they used video from trail cameras, from neighbors. They found him thanks to tips from residents. Apparently somebody saw him fleeing the car that was found yesterday abandoned near a highway there in Sybil County, near an area where he owns some property, that they used aircraft that had infrared cameras, and that helped in detecting exactly where he was. But the fact that he surrendered and nobody was harmed, I think was a big surprise given that he was armed at the time.
And I know for many people, they're wondering, you know, who was this man? Why did he do such a violent thing that he's alleged to have done? And I know you spoke to a friend of the suspect. What did you uncover there?
I spoke to a friend and a roommate he was living with during weekdays who had spoken with him on Friday. He was telling me that, look, this is a person who wasn't constantly advocating for politics, but that he was very conservative. I asked him specifically, did he listen to any podcasts? And he told me he listened to InfoWars, the Alex Jones podcast, that he warned him himself, like, well, you know, a lot of that is not true. He said that he was a born-again Christian, as you said there at the top.
My
he said,
God, Jesus Christ, conservative. right-wing Trump supporter, and a Christian girl. These terms are almost synonymous with lunacy at this point, and it is such a shame, honey, that these titles don't mean nothing anymore, girl, okay? And I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I think that there needs to be a study done on religiosity and conservative ideas and a true psychoanalytical assessment of, you know, how these ideals and mentality intersect with traits and capabilities like critical thinking and reasonability, etc. Because I'm sure, baby, I'm sure that there is a likely link between conservativeness, deep religiosity, and lunacy. Okay? I'm going to be honest. Conservative people to me just come off as very, very, very controlling mother. Okay? That there's a power hungriness there. You know, this need for people to conform, this need for everybody to be square, this need for everybody, you know, to walk and to live and exist a particular way instead of just minding your damn business and letting other souls and other beings, you know, have the right to show up however it is they show up in the world and be however they want to be, including non-Christian, including atheistic, including of African spiritual religions or of other orientations or genders or aesthetics, etc. You know, conservative ideas have always made me really uncomfortable because they lack nuance, they lack diversity, something that obviously nature and earth and humanity is, and there's just no way to really suppress that. And despite all of these political and religious attempts historically across the globe to make people one way and to enforce one way amongst people have continued to exist in diversified way and be born in diverse way and live in diverse ways. And so this is just a blatant reality of life, that people are different, you know, and not having space to accept other people's uniqueness, not having the space to accept that, you know, everybody don't have boots and everybody certainly can't pull them up by their bootstraps, and that life is nuanced, life is complicated, life is complex, and there's more gray than there really is black and white. I'm not surprised that religious people end up being the ones who are assaulting children and are pedophiles and just are losing their motherfucking minds and standing outside of abortion clinics and gay pride events and telling folk that they're gonna burn in hell as if you ain't got beans and weenies to go cook for them badass kids at 5 o'clock instead of having your whack conservative ass out here at the gay pride parade or outside the abortion clinic. Find you some damn business, baby. Okay? So, you know, it's just interesting now that we're just seeing this consistent thread. We're seeing this consistent pattern. And I think that needs to be thoroughly analyzed and investigated, baby, because, yeah, we are experiencing a mental health crisis, a very profound one. And I think it's broader and deeper than we ever could imagine, and it's hidden behind some of these commercial identities, these commercial political identities. I think that there's probably a lot of unspoken for data to support how particular ideologies actually open you up more so to lunacy. and to intellectual fallacy, and that actually cripple one's critical thinking abilities than other ideas. Maybe I think it's time for all of that research to happen.
That he cared a lot about abortion back in the day when he first became a born-again Christian, but that he didn't talk about it a whole lot. Here's a little bit more about what he told us yesterday.
I was a Trump supporter, voted for Trump.
Woo, child.
I like Trump. Nobody's happy with the government. Everybody's happy with this.
Vance is a Trump supporter, and hell, even he likes Trump.
Not happy what this politician does or that politician does, but you don't go on.
But he's not crazy.
Shooting spree. It's just you like Trump. I like Trump. Supporter, voted for.
Told us yesterday.
I was a Trump supporter, voted for Trump. You like Trump. I like Trump. Nobody's happy with the government. Everybody's happy with this. Not happy what this politician does or that politician does, but you don't go on a shooting spree. It's just that's why I hate even talking about it, because it's so crazy.
Governor Tim Walz, Errol, talked to.
Okay, let's get into that same roommate reading the last text messages sent to him by Vance.
So I just want to let you know I love you guys both, and I wish it hadn't gone this way. I don't want to say anything more and implicate you in any way, because you guys don't know anything about this. But I love you guys, and I'm sorry for all the trouble this has caused. He was a loving, caring guy. Loved his family, loved his friends, and loved God. And I don't know why he did what he did. It's not Vance. No one will believe this. No one that grew up. He had lots of friends, trust me. I wish I could have been there to stop him. So I just want to let you know.
Yeah. And we have more from him.
No, because he was on call for work, and he'd always say, yeah, I need rest for work, so I'm sharp. Because he was extracting eyeballs, so got to be sharp for that.
I remember him walking out of the house, or hearing him walking out.
No.
Is it unusual for him to go to bed at 7 p.m.?
Well, it depends on the shift, no, because he is working all kinds of hours. Didn't seem odd, no.
Did he give you any emotional message, said that he loves you, besides the text messages or something like that that seemed off?
Well, he said that he made some choices, and he said, you guys don't know anything about it, but yeah.
Another big ass.
That's why he said he didn't have much time to live.
Another big ass. Do you mind if I take a picture of the text message?
Nah,
I kind of block out his number.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I kind of keep that private because I read it to people, and I don't know. I just got to get going. I have to.
Baby, when that journalist asked, can she snap a shot of the text thread, baby, that man said he got to go, bitch. Okay, it's probably all type of booty holes and big titty white women and baby all type of. Baby, ain't no telling what type of apostrophes are in that damn text thread, baby. That man said, I got to go, Wendy. I got to go, Gail.
Phone still ringing when you called?
No, it's
Go straight to voicemail?
Yeah, just voicemail. He doesn't want me involved.
Yeah.
So he's not going to call me. He's not going to receive calls from me.
Can we at least see the text?
Well, everyone's taking pictures.
That right there would be enough for police to seize that goddamn phone, baby, because, of course he ain't going to say, he's implicated at all. But, the fact that he wanted to scurry away so damn quickly away from that question is very interesting, especially under these circumstances. And the reality is, did he just make himself a suspect accidentally? Because what's in that text thread, boo? Do you in fact know more than what you are leading on? Was he disclosing things to you of this nature? Were you encouraging this behavior? Did you know this was going to happen prior? Who knows, you know? But considering that Vance cleared his family and cleared Mr. Carson here, more than likely there are just other embarrassing interactions between him and his friend girl. He don't need them journalists girl accidentally swiping up too damn quick. Okay.
I don't know why I'm so. He sent it to me and a friend, so it wasn't just me. And I don't know if my friend would think about me sharing that with everybody. I mean, I read it out loud just so you guys could get a context of what I feel when I read it. Yeah. And
can you read it to us? We weren't here yesterday.
Yeah, I know. But I gotta really get going.
Do you have a message for him in case he's watching? He watches. Do you want to send him a message?
Yeah, tell him I love him and he's still my best friend, and I hope he doesn't kill anybody else. And I hope he surrenders himself for the sake of his family.
You must be disappointed.
Well, yeah, but you know, I don't want to see him killed, and you know, I'll still visit him in prison, I guess. That's what else are you gonna do? But you know, I just don't want to give up on life or kill himself.
Are you concerned he may have already done that?
Sure.
That he said in recent days he made choices that you don't know about. Tell us about those conversations, please.
Those weren't that was a text. Yeah.
So he didn't do anything in your interactions with him in the days before this happened that made you wonder.
Oh, that made me call the police. The
text did.
Yeah.
But any conversations you had in the last few days prior to this, nothing seemed.
Well, like I said, we had our separate lives. I worked and he worked, and he was here, and sometimes we'd go down and we'd hang out, but we would never, sometimes politics would be on the TV, but he was never really anything that was in-depth conversation about, just comments, And
just for the record, your name is David Carlson.
Yeah, with a C. Because this Minnesota, you guys don't know Carlson? Carlson. Carlson. Norwegian, Swedish, yeah. But, yeah.
Thank you. I don't want to take more of your time, so thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks for taking.
I just want you guys to just not say crazy right-winger gone nuts and that was all he is, it just bothers me. That's his legacy. But I knew him all my life. He wasn't that guy, You're gonna kill me.
I'm sorry, David.
Wow. All right. Lots of things going on there. So David Carson, known him since 4th grade.
You know those fat Hoka sneakers the president is wearing?
Live with them and everything. They had to swat the house, bust down the door, break the damn window. Vance lived he converted the living room of David's home into a bedroom where 4 or 5 other residents also were. So I don't know what type of damn halfway house David is over there running and everything. Also, Vance is a married man with I think 4 or 5 children. And he sometimes would commute and stay over at David's, etc., and rent a room out, etc. He was having some financial issues. He was trying to start a security company. So I don't know whether there was, trouble in paradise, etc. But the man was definitely having some financial issues, and certainly, was having some social and political issues. So this is also a press conference from the Minnesota officials regarding their findings. They're going to discuss ring cam footage that they have in their possession that caught these assassinations on camera. Also, what's very crazy and very wild is the fact that Vance came into contact with multiple Minnesota police during his assassination attempts. And, you know, this really could have been investigated had some of the officers who interacted with Vance outside of the homes of some of these political officials would have kind of been more suspicious and found his behavior to be, you know, as odd as it actually was, and would have kind of taken more of a initiative. So I'm also interested in how some of those Minnesota police officers actually feel who actually encountered him. They actually spoke to him. They thought he was another fellow officer, despite the fact that he didn't speak back. Despite the fact that when they spoke to him and drove up next to him as he was sitting outside of these officials' homes, that, you know, he just kept looking forward, acting like that he wasn't there. They went on about their business. You know, they didn't really investigate. They didn't call it in. Like, you know, I think there's another officer here, but I'm not sure, you know, did y'all send somebody? You know, there was nothing, you know, and this was after officials had already been popped. So, you know, this is very interesting, but, you know, I couldn't imagine now the guilt of some of those officers who, you know, saw this man doing his commutes and had no idea that he was the suspect, had no idea, you know, of what was going on.
Or even worse, they are truly chilling. It is no exaggeration to say that his crimes are the stuff of nightmares. Boelter stalked his victims like prey. He went to their homes, held himself out as a police officer, and shot them in cold blood. Now, there's been a lot of information and misinformation out there about Boelter's crimes. We have filed a detailed 20-page complaint and affidavit that sets forth what happened in this case. I'd like to share some of that information with you now. In the early morning hours of June 14th, Boelter went to the homes of 4 Minnesota state politicians with the intent to kill them. Boelter first traveled to the home of Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman in Champlin, Minnesota. Boelter arrived at the senator's home disguised as a police officer. He arrived in a black SUV with emergency lights turned on and with a license plate that read police. Boelter wore a black tactical vest and body armor. He carried a flashlight and a Beretta 9mm handgun. He also wore a hyper-realistic silicone mask.
Hey, it's Rob Sand, Democratic candidate for Iowa.
All right, so they're paying bills. We got to pay them too. You guys, a thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up.
Senator Hoffman had a security camera. I've seen the footage from that camera, and it is chilling. Boelter knocked on Senator Hoffman's front door and repeatedly shouted, "This is the police, open the door." Senator Hoffman and his wife, Yvette, came to the door. When they opened the door, Boelter shined the flashlight in their faces and said there had been a shooting reported in the house. Boelter asked if they had any weapons. When Boelter lowered his flashlight, which he had shined in their face, they realized that he was not a police officer. They shouted out, "You're not a cop. You're not a police officer." Boelter then announced, "This is a robbery," and forced himself into their home. When Senator Hoffman attempted to push Boelter out and stop him from entering his home, Boelter shot him repeatedly.
Wow.
Boelter then shot Miss Hoffman repeatedly.
Wow.
Boelter fled the scene, and the Hoffman's daughter called 911. Unfortunately, the Hoffmans survived, although they remain hospitalized. After shooting Senator Hoffman and his wife, Boelter traveled to the home of another Minnesota state representative in Maple Grove, Minnesota. Video surveillance showed that Boelter rang the doorbell at the state representative's house at approximately 2:24 a.m. on Friday night. Again, he was dressed as a law enforcement officer, wearing a tactical vest and body armor, carrying a handgun and a flashlight, and wearing that same hyper-realistic silicone mask. Again, the images, as you can see on the screen, are haunting. Unfortunately, the state representative was not home. She and her family were gone on vacation, and so Boelter left. Boelter then traveled to the home of a
God be the glory, baby, because they would have been as good as gone.
Minnesota state senator who lived in New Hope, Minnesota. He parked in the street in that same black SUV with the police license plate. At about 2:36 a.m. on Friday night, after learning of the shooting of Senator Hoffman, New Hope police dispatched an officer to conduct a wellness check on the state senator who lived in New Hope. When the New Hope officer arrived at the scene, she saw Boelter's black SUV parked down the block with the lights on. The New Hope police officer believed that Boelter was a police officer who had been dispatched to the scene to check on the status of the state senator. The New Hope police officer pulled up next to Boelter in his car, rolled down her window, and attempted to speak with him. Boelter did not respond. According to the officer, he just sat there and stared straight ahead. So the New Hope police officer, who had been dispatched to the scene, proceeded to the state senator's home, and she waited for other law enforcement to arrive. When they did, by the time they did, Boelter had left the scene. Boelter then traveled to Brooklyn Park, Minnesota.
So they found 45, they found his manifesto, which had 45 other Dems and Dem groups on it. This man was on a mission. Everybody on his hit list were Democrat and Democrat affiliates. And he was literally going down the roster. He was roll calling that night, going from house to house to house on his hit list, and used the resources of the internet to extract these politicians' addresses, etc. Has studied these folk and set out to do what he in fact did.
In the home of Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman. At approximately 3:30 a.m., Boelter arrived at Representative Hortman's house in his black SUV with the police license plates. He parked in the driveway and left the emergency lights on his SUV flashing as if he was a police officer. Boelter approached Representative Hortman's home, again dressed as a police officer, wearing the tactical vest and body armor, and wearing that hyper-realistic mask. He was armed and carrying a flashlight. Before he entered the home, 2 Brooklyn Park police officers arrived at the scene. They too had been dispatched to check on Representative Hortman after learning of the shooting of Senator Hoffman. When they arrived at the scene, they saw Boelter's black SUV parked in the driveway with the emergency lights flashing, and they saw Boelter standing in front of the house several feet from the door. When Boelter saw the officers get out of the car, he drew his weapon and began firing. He rushed into the house through the front door, firing into it. He repeatedly fired into the house. And when he entered, he murdered Representative Hortman and her husband, Mark. The Brooklyn Park police officers fired at Boelter as he rushed into the home, but he escaped into the home and out the back. Officers recovered Boelter's 9mm Beretta, along with the body armor and the mask, behind the home along his path of flight when he fled on foot. They later searched Boelter's car, where they found 5 more firearms, including assault-style rifles and a large quantity of ammunition. Boelter also had in his car notebooks containing a list of more than 45 Minnesota state and federal elected officials, including Representative Hoffman. Now, Boelter planned his attack carefully. He researched his victims and their families. He used the internet and other tools to find their addresses and names, the names of their family members. He conducted surveillance of their homes and took notes about the location of their homes. He also prepared in other ways. He concealed himself as a police officer, outfitting his black SUV with police lights and a police license plate, wearing a black tactical vest and body armor, carrying a police flashlight and a handgun. And of course, he wore that hyper-realistic silicone mask as seen on the surveillance videos.
I want to know, like, what's going on that stage, because whatever it is, baby, Mr. Man here, baby, is on high alert, girl. Any little cracking sound and swift and scrummage of a paper, baby, he looking to the left and the right, girl. I mean, I can't even say I'm mad at it at this damn point. Shit's so extreme, you don't know who the hell is who and who thinking what, baby. But this man is on high alert. He don't mind looking all the way to the left and all the way to the right, making sure his eyeballs graze the environment, girl. Hey.
Video of his arrival and shooting of Senator Hoffman is truly chilling. Again, it's no exaggeration to say this is the stuff of nightmares. There's a photo of the firearms found in Boelter's abandoned SUV. Based on these crimes, we brought a federal complaint charging Boelter with an array of federal charges. Counts 1 and 2 charge him with stalking. Count 1 charges him with stalking Representative Melissa Hortman using interstate facilities. And that's Title 18, United States Code 2261. The statutory penalties there are life in prison. Count 2, similarly, charges him with stalking State Senator John Hoffman using interstate facilities. The maximum penalty of that count is 20 years in prison. Counts 3 and 4 charge Boelter with the murder of Melissa and of the Hortmans using a firearm in violation of 18 USC 924J. And these are punishable by a term of life imprisonment or even death. And counts 5 and 6 charge him with shooting the Hortmans and the Hoffmans using a firearm, and both of those counts also carry a maximum sentence of life in prison. Now, before I finish my remarks, I want to say a little bit about law enforcement and the manhunt that we've heard about the last 2 days. Over the past 48 hours, federal, state, and local law enforcement from throughout the state of Minnesota have worked together.
And it's true. We are not hearing the term domestic terrorism, which is very fitting here, considering that these type of violent acts that are motivated by political and religious or social ideologies is what literally defines domestic terrorism. But, you know, they never use those type of terms when the perpetuator is of European origin. So, yeah. Not surprising that we're not hearing that term.
Carry out the largest manhunt in Minnesota history.
If you use castor oil, you'll grow your hair.
Okay, so they're paying them bills, child.
Longer.
Y'all thumbs up the video.
Now, a lot has been said about law enforcement in recent weeks, but make no mistake, the men and women of our federal, state, and local law enforcement put their lives at risk and on the line to keep Minnesota safe. They work tirelessly, day and night, to make sure that the tragic events of Friday night ended without further violence or bloodshed. We owe them all a debt of gratitude, and they will forever have my respect and admiration. I'm going to turn it over to Special Agent Alvin Whitson from the FBI.
Thanks, Joe. Good morning. My name is Alvin Winston, and I serve as the special agent in charge of the FBI Minneapolis field office, which covers the states of Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. I want to begin by extending my deepest condolences to the families of the victims and to the community that has been shaken by this devastating act of violence. Our thoughts remain with those who are grieving and all who have been impacted by this tragedy. Over the weekend, the people of Minnesota and the nation have been watching closely as this case has unfolded. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension provided a detailed update yesterday, so I won't repeat those specifics. This was a targeted attack against individuals who answered the call to public service. The FBI's role in moments like this is clear: to stand alongside our partners, bring federal resources, intelligence capabilities, and reach to the effort, not just to apprehend the individual responsible, but to understand the full scope of the threat. That work continues. This case became the largest coordinated manhunt in Minnesota's history. We are proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with our law enforcement partners across the state. No single agency could have done this alone. And because of that unified effort, a dangerous individual was taken into custody. Let me say this clearly. Political violence has no place in this country. The FBI, alongside our partners, will remain focused on the work ahead and on ensuring justice is served.
All the more reason why Trump ass need to go. He literally pardoned domestic terrorists, those January 6th rioters, those insurrectioners whose motives were politically centered, who scaled walls, beat, assaulted security and officers, leading to one officer dying from his distress in the aftermath, suffering a cardiac arrest event. And he freeing them like dominoes. He freeing them like EBT gods, but wanting to make America safe again by running out these alleged illegally undocumented immigrants, which ironically we've yet to see any undocumented illegally European immigrants hauled up out of her. You know, there's only a particular ethnicity of folk who are being rounded up. Then we got these travel bans on 36 more countries, and most of them are Caribbean and African countries. Seems like we got a leader who's terrorizing the people domestically through political and legislative violence.
And with that, I'll hand it over to Drew.
Thank you with those comments. And we're thankful today to see these charges filed. Early on, with our partners from the Federal Bureau of Investigation and other federal partners from the ATF, United States Marshal Service, and others, they provided assistance to the team of local investigators from the Brooklyn Park Police Department, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, and the BCA that were working on this right to begin with, along with all the other hundreds of people that stepped up with Champlain Police Department as well in this to pursue this justice. You might be asking, because we see it a lot of times these cases, go in various orders when they are, but this is an indication that the United States Attorney's Office stands along with us in the state of Minnesota, that when somebody and an evil individual decides to move this and create fear in our communities and commit evil acts, that we will pursue every possible charge that we can, from the state charges that you've learned about today to these federal charges that were discussed early on. And I'm grateful for the leadership of the United States Attorney's Office and the FBI for helping us move that forward so quickly in a coordinated approach. We do that because, as SAC Winston said, in situations like this, we have individuals that step up to serve their communities. They are elected officials across our state. And when an individual chooses to target them for their role in representing all of us, it's an incumbent upon all of us to put all the resources forward to hold that individual accountable, to seek justice, and to make sure that we are working together to show the community across Minnesota and the United States that political violence is never okay. We as a country are formed on the basis that we have political discourse and that we have debates ongoing on what we do, and that we elect people day in, day out to represent us. And when somebody tries to undermine that, it's important for all of us to hold that person accountable so that we can move forward as a country and have a system in place that a representative government, and that we provide the protections for those individuals and their families moving forward. And so I'm thankful for these charges today to move this forward, and the great work of the United States Attorney's Office partnering with us to move forward on this. And with that, they'll take some questions.
Is there a terrorism charge in there?
Wait, if you've taken Uber since 2019.
All right, you guys, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up the video.
Why is it not a terrorism charge is the question. We brought the charges that we think are appropriate right now. Obviously, these crimes are about 48 hours old, so we have an ongoing investigation, and I can't comment as to what other charges may or may not be brought.
Will you seek the death penalty?
Did Mr. Boelter
Will you seek the death penalty?
Lou, thank you for the question. Will we see the death penalty? It's too early to tell. That is one of the options for several of the charges, though.
Did Mr. Boelter have any assistance? Are you looking into whether he may have had assistance? And if he did, what are the potential consequences for anybody who may have assisted him either before or after these tragic shootings?
Our investigation remains ongoing in several areas, including whether or not he had anyone helping him, assisting him in either carrying out these attacks or fleeing from them. I can't comment on that at this time. There's nothing in the complaint suggesting that someone did, but the investigation is ongoing. In fact, it's just in its infancy. It's been 48 hours, most of which we are primarily focused on finding him.
Surveillance cameras in Minneapolis shortly after these crimes occurred. Do we know how he got from Brooklyn Park to Minneapolis? Was it on foot?
I don't know the answer to that.
Can you speak clarity about the state charges concurrent with the federal charges? How does that all work? Does this make null the state charges or take precedence over the state charges?
It does not nullify the state charges. They remain in place. Today, he was brought into federal custody. He'll make his initial court appearance in federal court over in St. Paul at 1:30 Central Time this afternoon. And my expectation, based on prior cases, is the federal charges will be litigated first, but the state charges won't necessarily go anywhere.
Can you speak to why investigators believe he carried out this attack and for how long he may have been planning these attacks?
Well, it's pretty clear from the evidence that he's been planning these attacks for quite some time. There's voluminous writings, as you've seen in the reporting, that were found both in his car and his house about his planning, lists of names and individuals. In terms of the why, it's unclear.
About this interaction with the New Hope police, what had law enforcement been told at that point? Were they aware to be on the lookout for a dark SUV that resembled a police vehicle?
I don't know. I can turn that. I don't know if one of my colleagues here know. I know that they had heard about the shooting of Senator Hoffman and being the diligent law enforcement they were, knowing that they had elected officials living in their communities, they went out to do a wellness check. I don't know more than that.
You know, what I can say, and as you can, I don't know the specifics of the question. This and what on that, whether it is. What I will tell you is that Hennepin County law enforcement working together at that time knew of that, and so as the different jurisdictions were on duty, some of them did proactive. You know, as you've heard from Chief Bruley on this in Maple Grove, for example, or in Brooklyn Park. I'm sorry, for example, they went out proactively to check on the status and the well-being, and that's how we encountered this and prevented additional attacks, which we believe certainly could have occurred from occurring. So we don't know the specifics on the New Hope as to what they were doing, but they were tracking the shooting that happened. And so several of them were being proactive and checking on various people that they knew resided in their city.
So did he shoot at the officers in Brooklyn, or the Brooklyn Park officers that responded? Did he shoot at them, or was he shooting into the house and they kind of like chased him into the house?
My understanding is it's unclear at the moment whether or not he shot at them. It's possible that he did. It's not clear. Obviously, it was a chaotic scene.
Was he wearing the mask when the New Hope officer interacted with him?
I believe he was, although I can't say for certain.
Is there reason to believe that there?
He was wearing the mask when the New Hope officer encountered him, thinking that he was another dispatched officer. I just don't understand how you pull up next to this person posing as an officer. You think he's been dispatched, considering that there's just been an assault on public political officials. You're speaking to this individual. They don't say anything. They don't even look at you. They're continuing to look forward despite you actively seeking to greet them, seeking to engage with them about what's going on. They're wearing this flesh-based silicone mask, whatever it is, that looks like something out of a damn horror film. And the oddity of the aesthetics, the oddity of this person not speaking back just doesn't raise your alarm. It doesn't. You know, and we're talking about humans, right? Including officers. You know, they're subjected to, stupidity and mishaps and anything involving people is going to be prone to error. But my God, like, I don't understand how, it's not like you're just out there cruising. Like, there's just been an assassination attempt on two public figures. Y'all are coming out to see about other people, making sure that they're good. There's obviously a suspect on the loose. And this person, and not even a official patrol car, like in a car that is being slightly dressed up like a security car, wearing a mask, doesn't even look at you, doesn't even speak to you. That is one hell of a ball to drop. I mean, how Dixie and them with it?
Was plans to commit additional violence at, say, the protests that were going on that day? I've not seen evidence of that. It's hard to say what his plan was. Obviously, he went to the homes of no less than 4 elected officials. He had a list of other elected officials, their home addresses. So,
to make sure that we connect the dots properly, could you name the other 2 officials?
We can't at this time. I wouldn't surprise me if they publicly identify themselves, but it's not really my place to do that if they want to protect their own privacy.
What's your message to Minnesotans who may get a late night knock on the door from police if something's going on in their communities? I mean, can you just speak on that?
I'm going to let law enforcement handle that one. I don't know if someone, sure, please.
Good morning, Police Chief Mark Bruley, Brooklyn Park Police Department. Great question. Like we sent out a message to our community when this first occurred is you always can call 911 and verify if the person at your door is a police officer. If they are a working police officer, they will be connected to a dispatch center.
Yeah, they can tell the difference because he just stated that the guy was wearing the mask, so they knew it was a mask. And even from the ring cam footage, you can clearly see that it's a mask. I mean, while it does, take the form of old boy's face, what it leaves behind is a distortion of the face. The person, I mean, even from the ring cam footage, it looks like that of a burn victim. But they knew it was a mask.
validate that. So the first thing I would do is, if you're concerned about it, is call 911. Obviously, there's a lot of different uniforms, and it's never wrong to do that.
Can you clarify the shootings and stuff? Because we were told, I believe, that the person in custody did shoot at police at the Hoffman residence. That's an important detail.
Yeah, so I'll answer this again. That's part of the act investigation, and I know there's been a lot that's going on, but as any time law enforcement uses deadly force, there's a walled off separate investigation to examine that. At that time, I will tell you, we still work through. We are gathering evidence when we go through. This happened incredibly fast. What I can tell you is the police officers that were there on scene, that while they were assessing the situation, that the gunfire erupted. And we are still working through and reconstructing that crime scene. We've gathered all of the evidence related to that. And what was said there is that this is definitely happening very quickly, and we definitely know.
Let's put a pause there and pull up the flesh mask. I mean, even from the ring cam footage, you can see clearly that, you know, this is a prop that old boy is wearing. I mean, like, look at that. It doesn't even look remotely natural at all. The eyes are hollowed out. You know, there's a lack of dimension in the face aside from the forehead wrinkles, which actually makes it look more artificial than anything else, considering that everything else is smooth as hell. You know, it looks like a Jason Voorhees mask. I mean, this isn't even remotely believable. I mean, it looks like a helmet, really. Do you guys think that this looks natural to y'all? Or does it look like a mask? Because it looks like a mask to me. I mean, you know, it clearly looks Halloween-y and costumey. Especially, once again, you know, the eyes. And this is, once again, you know, the ring cam footage. So this is pretty good detailing.
That he began shooting at the Hoffmans, as will be detailed in this information, immediately once the officers were assessing the situation. Whether or not that the gunfire was returned at the officers or not, we are working through that, and we need to recreate the crime scene itself. And I should say, I want to say, like, in that process, the gunfire was erupting in such a way all around that is partly why with the reasonable interpretation on some of those is where that came from initially.
Can you identify the potential motive here? It has been widely reported that the list, his hit list, contained names of people who are abortion rights supporters. And also, can you please release the names of the two other targeted victims who were fortunate to get away?
As I said, with respect to the other two potential victims, I think it's up to them whether they want to publicly identify themselves. As I said, it wouldn't surprise me if they do. They're elected officials, but that's their right. Obviously, they may have families and children and privacy interests that they need to sort through. So I'll let them do that. With respect to the potential motive, let me say this. There's been a lot of press coverage and speculation and discussion of a manifesto. I've seen nothing like a Unabomber-style manifesto in his writings. He had many, many notebooks full of plans.
So imagine, right, a real-life trained officer who is trained to observe, you know, is trained to pull in details, you know, in their observations, you know, what a person is wearing, what the color of the shoes. Imagine that they pull up next to this person wearing this in the car. And they're speaking to this person under the belief that they are another dispatch officer, and they see this sitting in the car. And this doesn't, despite how scary it visually looks, it gets even more scary because this person doesn't even speak back, doesn't even look at you while you're speaking, and you are another dispatch officer, and then you just kind of don't think anything of that. How don't you think anything of that? How? Right, Trevon. Ain't no more. Like, huh? As far as I'm concerned, the man came out looking like the villain he was. You know, I maybe can understand an everyday person, you know, a civilian, you know, not thinking anything of it because they don't really have any reason to think anything of it other than, you know, obviously, okay, that's weird as hell, you know, but a officer who's already responding, you know, out of a distress call because of what just took place at another home regarding public officials encountering this, engaging in trying to interact with this, and then just pooching along, chopping it up. That was definitely a gross misnumber on, you know, those New Hope officers, man. Wow.
Lists of names, surveillance, efforts that he took to surveil and locate the home addresses and family members' relationships with these elected officials. But I have not seen anything involving some sort of political screed or manifesto that would clearly identify what motivated him. Obviously, his primary motive was to go out and murder people. Now, they were all elected officials. They were all Democrats. Beyond that, I think it's just way too speculative for anyone that's reviewed these materials to know and to say what was motivating him in terms of ideology or specific issues. There's a lot of
abortion rights supporters.
There were some abortion rights supporters, I believe, on the list. But again, there was dozens and dozens and dozens of names on, you know, hundreds of pages of documents that were recovered with his writings on them.
Will you confess and give more details after he was apprehended last night?
Welcome, everyone. This is Lisa, and I'm going to be taking...
Now, here's the gag. Those officers would have saw a real life a black person and been more damn alarmed by a natural black face than they were a unnatural white face.
I'm not going to comment on that at this time.
Can you talk about how long this pre-planning and surveillance went on? Do you have any idea?
It appears to have gone on for an extensive period of time. I think it's unclear. The writings appear to have been done at various times over the course of at least months, I would say. But beyond that, it's speculative.
Did he give any? Did he have two? There's kind of two questions that go towards the same thing. He appeared to be involved with some kind of a home security or professional security operation. I wonder if you have any details into that. And was he familiar to law enforcement, even though he didn't appear to have any kind of serious criminal record in the state?
I've seen the press reporting on his security company. I don't know anything beyond that or any involvement that would have in this case. And I have no knowledge of his interactions with law enforcement prior to this.
They could have apprehended that man right there, actually, had those two New Hope officers actually, you know, been actually spooked and nervous like they should have been spooked and nervous. You know, the way they get spooked and nervous when they interacting with black and brown folk. They could have actually prevented the second assassination. You know, this particular political official and her family were, you know, on vacation, luckily, you know. So that second assassination could have been completely stopped. The sequence of events would have been completely interrupted had they been just as spooked as they should have been, considering what this nigga was walking around looking like.
Not at all about, you know, his car, the light pack, the license plate, maybe a bit of a badge sniffer. Was he obsessed with police?
I have no idea. I think I skipped over the slide. The police license plate wasn't an official looking police license plate, as you can tell. It said, I believe it was like a reflective black things that you would buy to put on like a mailbox, like your address on a mailbox.
Was he a bit obsessed?
And to your point, Auntie Jace, this is Minnesota's finest. This is their finest. Auntie Jace says a homicidal maniac showing up looking and acting like a homicidal maniac. And y'all don't connect the dots. The man came out looking like a whole villain, baby, and interacted with Minnesota's finest. And they just kind of scratched their heads and kept on moving. My God, today. I would hate to see what their best, or hell, what their worst looks like.
With do we know?
I have no idea.
There were reports that his wife was, quote, detained at a rest stop in Onamia, and that in her car was found weapons, passports and a lot of cash. He was also with 3 children. Is that true? And is the wife being investigated?
Go ahead. I'll defer to law enforcement on that one.
Yeah, I can answer the question. So when, the question was detained, obviously, when an individual commits these, heinous acts and we knew he was the suspect in this case, we're going to want to talk to the family. At this point in time, this is, under active prosecution. And so we want to be careful about what we say. She was cooperative with us at that time. There were a firearm in the vehicle at the time, at valid reasons for her she was legally in possession, I should say that, at this time, and there were other items that were recovered, but we're going to leave that to some of the prosecution as we work this out. So we're not going to comment on all of it, as this is still continue to be part of the active investigation. We need to figure out exactly what all of this means in relation to this.
To be clear, there's not going to be a first appearance in district court then today, and then where is he being held?
There will be an initial appearance in federal court over in St. Paul, Minnesota at 1:30 Central Time this afternoon. I do not anticipate there will be an appearance in state court today.
Just one more question on the hit list. You said 45 names, and we've seen more than that. Was there more than 45?
There's lots of, go.
Yeah, and I think it can help. There's a lot of names that we're working together right now. So the FBI, there are some, and we've mentioned this, that there are some other names that are from out of state. They have been working through through our Fusion Center network across the United States, and then our partners at the FBI are helping coordinate with that in that process. The question is a good one. Part of what we're looking through, the names, the numbers that you're referencing, was names in multiple notebooks. Some of them are redundant. So I don't have a total number of people that were in there because some of them are overlapping on multiple lists. And again, I do want to continue to clarify, this is not a list of people that was in a numerical order and some sort of ranking. These are names that are being developed as we are looking at this across multiple writings in terms of that, just to be clear about it.
And was Senator Hoffman's name even in there, though?
I believe it was.
What would your life be like if you...
Wow. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, you guys. My God, today. And it's more of this to come, man. People are unhinged by the hour.
Right now, I think he's in the custody of the United States Marshal Service over at the St. Paul Federal Courthouse. Beyond that, I'll defer to the marshals on where he'll be held, assuming he's held in custody pending trial.
Can today's court appearance be considered an arraignment? Is there anything you can tell us about what's supposed to happen?
It'll be an initial appearance because he's only charged by complaint. He has not yet been indicted. So he'll have an initial appearance, as all defendants do, before a federal judge, where he'll be asked to identify himself. The court will appoint a lawyer to represent him, or he can retain one and have a lawyer represent him. And then the court will ask whether or not we will move to seek his detention pending trial, which we obviously will. And then the court could set a detention hearing and a preliminary hearing to assess whether or not there's probable cause to charge him by complaint. How much of that will happen actually today is unclear. We'll see at 1:30.
And is that the Warren E. Berger Federal Building, and that's the only court appearance today?
Correct.
For Superintendent Evans, yesterday, the way that things played out yesterday, when you came up for the 5:30 or so press conference, did you know that he was close to being caught at that point? Or did it come as a surprise when you got the trail cam information or from a neighbor who saw him in the field?
So that, we, as noted, we still had belief that he was in Sibley County. When we held that, we did not know the information specifically that he was there based on the overall investigative. That was still our belief there, but the specific information that led to his arrest at that time, we were not tracking yet. So, and I assume that's related to the timeline. These teams and the law enforcement teams acted very quickly when they had a specific lead that led us to know he was in that area. And so it was a relatively short period of time where they converged and were able to do that.
What we knew before this news conference was bad enough. What you have told us is even worse. Where does this rank in terms of attacks that you know of across the United States? And what, you addressed some of your reaction, but can you all three give us your reactions?
Look, this was a political assassination, which is not a word we use very often in the United States, let alone here in Minnesota. It's a chilling attack on our democracy, on our way of life. It's only the most recent example of violent political extremism in this country, and that's a trend that's been increasing in recent years, and that's unfortunate. And I hope it's a wake-up call to everyone that people can disagree with you without being evil or needing to be killed or hurt.
You mentioned that multiple different aspects of this investigation were found in multiple different notebooks. How many were discovered, and were they all in his vehicle?
My understanding is some notebooks were recovered from his vehicle and others from his house. Although obviously there was law enforcement literally from all around the state. I couldn't begin to identify all of them. Representatives of many of those, or some of those agencies are here, but far more were involved. And so all I can say, there was many notebooks recovered from multiple locations. And part of it
makes sense about him going back home. Like, what was he thinking? Did he say he was trying to get back to his house? I mean, it's odd, I guess you could say.
I can't speculate as to what was in his mind. He obviously went on a murderous rampage on Friday, so I think I'm not aligned with his thought process.
Mr. Winston.
Something about him smiling through this whole press conference is, I don't know, it's like kind of weird.
Can you talk about, is there any sort of attention being paid to what kind of safety needs to be given to politicians at this time? Or is this a space where people feel like any threat has left with this arrest?
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to, of course, take these threats as serious as possible and throw all available resources towards these threats. We are in lockstep with the Capitol Police on a regular basis, and we're continuing to have those conversations about threats towards politicians. Thank you for that question.
Maybe one more question here before we wrap up.
Perhaps this is for Chief Worley. Just wanted to wrap it back to hoping you can speak to just how pivotal it is that your officers acted proactively, stopping by the Hortman's house and likely stopping more victims.
Yeah, great question. Just for everybody in the room. Question is, how important was it that the police officer stopped at Representative Hortman's house, which really foiled this entire plan? It's incredibly important. That started with a sergeant who was actually off duty, was walking out of the building and had heard that there was a shooting in another community at Senator Hoffman's house. Being alert, seen two officers in the police department, said, "Hey, drive by Melissa Hortman's house and just check on the house, would you?" And that's essentially what they pulled up and found, that in the driveway was the car. And essentially the criminal act was occurring as they pulled up. Had they not foiled the plan, essentially took his vehicle away from him, which involved all his maps, all his names, all his weaponry, I would be very scared what it would look like over the next few hours had we not done that.
And just to clarify, did your sergeant know about the New Hope and Maple Grove incidents, or just the one in Champlin?
He only knew about the one that occurred in Champlin.
So the other officer that came upon him at the second house and saw him sitting in a vehicle, did she realize, like, did she report that, and did they try to chase him? Did she realize that was suspect, or?
I don't think she did. She knew something was awry, and then he left and proceeded to Brooklyn Park and carried out the next shooting. So it got lost in the chaos of the event, not lost in the chaos of events, but there was a new shooting shortly thereafter. It really is remarkable, to the question earlier, how he went to 4 houses that night, and in 2 of them, he encountered law enforcement, and the third and fourth one, and the second one, no one was home at all. It's remarkable how diligent law enforcement was at 2:30, 3 o'clock, and 3:30 in the morning on a Friday night, that they were responding to just do wellness checks on our politicians. It's a testament. The last 48 hours have been an incredible testament to the professionalism and dedication and commitment of our federal, state, and local law enforcement. Thank you all.
Okay, so that was the press conference, honey. TJ says, can you say due process he is being given what the convicted felon and his psychopaths would deny Black and brown people love? Child. Her story says the sad part is that this happened Saturday, and they barely talked about it because of that parade the felon spent millions on. Oh my God. I don't know what case that is, K-Ben. Y'all know, I don't really pay attention to this part of the news cycle. But I'm going to look into the Luigi's M case. You're asking what's the difference? I have no idea. It's not remarkable. It's your job. There's no way that no one thought that was a natural face. It wasn't, you know, but, you know, to Minnesota's finest, you know, to some degree, you know, they stepped in, and it definitely saved some more lives. So luckily, whoever that was that initially sent out, you know, the word, you know, to dispatch officers to go see about folk, they were on it intuitively. So this came to an end sooner than later. But yeah, you know, this is crazy. This is a Trump supporter, according to his friend of 40 plus years, known him since the 4th grade, Mr. David Carson. And this is not some left-wing crazy person gone rogue on their own political party. That is a false narrative and fake news being perpetuated, of course, by the far-right idiots. And I don't think Trump has yet to speak. You know, he's talking about every damn thing else, but this sad situation, and more than likely Trump is probably somewhere gloating because he's that dense and probably feels like, ha ha ha, this is what the Dems get, because, you know, when I was popped in the damn ear, nobody give a damn. And I think that that's a deplorable way for a president, a leader to act. Okay, I can understand that behavior from everyday folk, but, you know, from a political leader, man, this is iconic low vibrationalness from the context of leadership. So I'll be keeping you guys updated. He had a court hearing today, follow up on state charges, etc. It's going to be a lot. There's a lot going on. I cannot promise you guys updates all the time as it relates to the political sphere because it's exhausting and it's just too much going on. However, you know, we'll touch bases. And if you are interested in being a part of a political panel, I am definitely interested in having some panelists to come and, you know, provide the political commentary to the platform. If you guys are interested in doing something like that, to being a part of something like that, email me at Consciouztv at gmail.com and let me know, you know, what your political views are and what you would like to accomplish. I would definitely love to host a panel like that because, like I said, I don't always have the bandwidth to, you know, I just don't have the bandwidth for it. So, yeah, all those things. If you guys enjoyed the stuff, you guys already know what to do. Thumbs up the video, of course. Tell a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. Make sure you subscribe if you are new here. And of course, if you enjoyed the stuff, you can show some love to the Cash App. We have a $400 pacer bill, girl, that we have to pay. So if you guys want to contribute to that fund, or you just appreciate the king, $sign Consciouztv on Cash App and or paypal.me/Consciouztv. I might be back tonight with some pop culture trendy topics. It's a lot going on across the board. So stay in peace, not pieces, as my godmother Iana would say, you guys, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.